Good evening, people of De Montfort University. We are here tonight to discuss two roles. We've got Presidency and Vice President of Welfare and Community. I am joined in the back here by the three members who have showed up for their Welfare and Community almost debates and also some student questions. And we also have the lovely current President, Mr. Dan Winnie, to answer a few questions and get a better understanding about what actually is VP Welfare and Community. So over to you, Floss.
So, hi Dan.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of what a VP Welfare and Community Officer is?
Yeah, so VP Welfare is one of the funnest roles. It's really one where whoever is successful in getting in really gets to do what they want to do, and really, if they're really good, they'll do an amazing job. It's all about campaigns on how to improve the welfare of all of our students. The community bit is looking into the local community, how we can engage with them. But yeah, mostly about campaigns, how we can look after our students, attends university board meetings, gets to represent the student view, gets to go out and talk to as many students as possible, find out what the latest issues are, what the problems are. And Kira's done a fantastic job this year, especially she's got a Mandala project tonight, which is about sexual violence and having somewhere, a safe space on campus for people to go. But yeah, just making sure everyone's safe on campus.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. Thank you very much there, Dan. So Dan, we'll be back later on to talk about the presidency campaign and also see about talking a bit more to the candidates and maybe getting his opinion later on as well. But now it's time to get some questions in for Jordan. So what is our first question, Floss?
So, Jordan, you started your manifesto by saying that DMU has never been just about your course, but the wider communities, so Demon Media and other societies.
Yep.
So why did you pick to go for welfare and not student activities?
So community, I feel that was like the community at DMU. It's the society's activities, welfare and community, it can all tie into one. It doesn't need to be just separate. I feel that we can work together, whoever is elected as activities, whoever's elected as welfare and community, we can all work together to benefit the whole DMU community as a whole. So it's about, yeah, just working as a whole and not working singularly. I feel that that's not as beneficial. We can be stronger if we are together.
So basically you're doing this for everyone else. You're not getting any personal gain out of this in any way, because there's always the idea that these people do this to get a legacy here at DMU, because if you've been a vice president, you will, and you've done something massive that has changed loads of lives, you will be there forever, really, in one sense. So you're not doing this at all in that way?
Oh no, I've not even thought of it in that way until you mentioned it just now. No, it's not about that. I feel like I'm sort of just a normal student. I've had the old student experience, nights out, courses, socials. It's all been there. I've helped to set up societies. I feel like I've just done it all, and I just want to kind of bring my experience to the role, and hopefully it will better future experiences for future students.
Okay, wonderful. So over to you, Nikki. You said that you want to, how do you actually hope to support students facing homelessness and those who needed financial support?
It's a lot about kind of making sure that they know where they can go to talk to us. Obviously, we've got the Students' Union, but we need to work with the university, work with places like the Gateway House, and who have all these information, so where we can speak to them. So like, and even outside, like working within the community, working with Leicester City, we are still part of Leicester. We're like, we're a big part of Leicester actually. So it's about making sure that if they are facing homelessness and they're not, they can kind of go to somewhere in Leicester City Council, but making those communications, making sure that it's not just the student that kind of feels like, oh my God, I'm at university, I'm not part of the student, the Leicester community as well. Just kind of making those communications, making more awareness as well, definitely.
So do you think you will be able to give some sort of financial backing for students or receive a financial backing from the union?
I mean, it'd be nice to. It would absolutely be amazing to say, yeah, we've got all this money, we can help you. But I know that sometimes that's not realistic. But perhaps talking with like Leicester City Council, making like, they should be aware, they've got 2 universities here, they should know that, yeah, those students can face these sort of issues, and making sure they've got the support as well. So like, I mean, facing homelessness can bring a lot about of stress. So making sure they've got the support while they're at university, so they're not like lacking on their studies as well. definitely.
So when you're talking about this financial backing, are you looking at getting this from the university itself or from the city council?
That'd be something I'd look into. I'm not too sure. It'd probably be, hopefully it might be a bit of both. So perhaps talking to the Leicester City Council, see if they can give us any money, and seeing if like the university would be able to.
Do you actually think that's a realistic idea though? Because at the minute, looking at the current climate that our government is in, they've reduced funding to local councils.
They have.
Which has meant that the council has had to reduce their proportion of money that they can give out to certain things, and they still have to provide waste removal, things like that, and this doesn't always get covered fully by council tax. So is that really a realistic idea to ask Leicester City Council to cover this, especially when there are 2 universities that have quite a sizable student population?
I think it is realistic because we are, like I said, we are still part of the Leicester community. So if the Leicester City Council can help tackle homelessness outside of the universities, why can't they help students as well? We still live in Leicester, so we're part of their community. So I think it is realistic to at least talk to them and try it at least.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Hello.
You're right.
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
How are you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, good.
Last one to get your first question.
I know, it's nervous.
So, in your manifesto, you're after a safer campus during freshers and nights out.
Yeah.
So, one of the clauses in that was to kind of provide free condoms.
Yeah.
But in that, you included kind of a winky option.
Well, throughout freshers or throughout this like campaign as well, I've been giving out condoms, and now I know how expensive they are. I've had to put them in my own budget, and they cost a lot of money. So now I can actually realise where like the financing and stuff would come from that. And I just think that STI rates in freshers and stuff is actually quite high. I don't know the exact statistics, but I do think that there is quite a lot of needs to be a lot of funding and stuff around. Well, not funding, like needs to be a lot of like push towards that, I think. Definitely.
Well, is this not almost the responsibility of the NHS in this sort of area? Because if you go to any sexual health clinic in Leicester, you can get free condoms, you can get the pill, all of these things which are out there to sort of protect young people.
Yeah.
So why are you trying to almost do a job that the NHS is having to do anyway?
Yeah, I'm a health student myself. I actually study health studies, but I think that quite a few people come to Leicester and don't know where these services are. So if we had it in Freshers Week, and then can provide the services afterwards and direct them to these services, it could actually benefit them in 2 different ways. So we give them the resources to go out and then do it themselves. But if we can give them the starter pack, then it can carry on after that.
But does this starter pack not maybe encourage people, students specifically, to have one-night stands?
I don't think so, no, because you'd only pick it up if you really wanted them. I think it would be one of those
So this
things,
is not something that you provide to all students automatically?
No.
You'd have to go to a stand and collect it yourself?
Yeah, you'd have to go and collect them
Right,
yourself,
okay.
and the end of the night out, there would be like a little packet that you would then collect.
At the end of a night?
Yeah, at the end of the night out.
So who's going to run this stand?
They wouldn't, they would just be there at the end of the night out. It's like, as you leave, you get the leaflets for like other clubs and stuff. There would be like a little
But
packet.
then what's to stop
then pick them
vandalism?
up. They would be in the club, so you'd have to just get them in.
So you're going to put them inside clubs. So
basically, like inside our freshers' nights out, yeah.
So you're going to put them in our local clubs as almost get like a sponsorship with them to provide free condoms,
or
which
like
the university is going to fund.
Yeah, like with our like student club that we have here, just provide them at the end of the night. No one would have to man the stall or anything like that.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Miriam. So back to you, Jordan.
Hello.
How are you going to engage with students in the communities? So you've got quite a few in the student population. You've got LGBT, you've got the minorities, you've got a lot of different communities inside it. So how are you specifically going to be able to converse with them and make them feel comfortable and feel approachable?
Yeah, so one thing I've been doing as I've been going around campaigning and talking to students is telling them about my promise about getting more people involved with the Love International campaign. Obviously, the Love International campaign launched this year at DMU, and it's been a huge success so far, and I want that success to carry on into next year. I want to get cultural societies involved with that. So we've got so many international and cultural societies completely away from sport that are a massive part of this DSU community, but I feel their events are kind of hidden. So sort of someone that may not be sort of know about that culture has no idea. They have socials every week and stuff like that. I want to bring them more onto campus so they can.
How do you plan on bringing them more onto campus? Because obviously,
Yeah.
standing them in the middle of
Yeah.
like outside Food Village is not going to
Yeah.
increase awareness. It's just going to be a mass of people.
Yeah.
So how are you actually going to increase awareness of them?
It's about marketing events, so not just basically shoving someone on campus. It's about marketing it, getting it out there, getting it, using stuff like Dema Media, using that platform to get it across out to students, and then putting on the events, and hopefully students will be able to engage with that.
Okay, wonderful. Back to you, Nikki.
Hello.
You've said you'll support student careers, part-time students and distance learners. How will you communicate with students who are unlikely to engage with the SU? Because there must be quite a lot of people that won't want to engage.
There probably is quite a lot that don't really engage with the SU. I mean, every student that signs up to university, they have an email account. And not like I'm saying, you know, I'm going to hack their emails and not hack, spam their emails. But it's kind of making sure they're aware, like making sure there's posters up for when they do come in, making sure they can pop into a students' union if they need to, making sure their emails, their social media. I mean, sorry, part-time and distance learners may not be part of the students' union physically, but I'm sure they're following it on Facebook. So kind of using social media, using Demon Media, making sure they're kind of aware that way as well.
Okay, so going off that, my cousin actually is a distance learner at DMU.
All right.
She does teaching and education here.
Yeah.
But she has no knowledge of what the SU actually do. So how are you specifically, with your whole campaign ideologies, going to be able to specifically contact her rather than just send out emails?
That's a very good
Or are
question.
you going to maybe do like phone calls with them, like invite them to events? And even if you do invite them to events, you've got to address things like cost of travel, surely. So what's your opinion on this?
I think it is very important to kind of contact distance learners, and it's via Facebook, because I might not know them personally, but like you said, you know them and other people know them, and it's kind of making sure they're aware through their friends and through their lecturers as well is really important. I'm sure their lecturers know that they're distance learners, so maybe making sure, communicating to lecturers and saying, well, can you talk to your distance learners?
Okay.
And kind of making sure every student counts and every student's getting the support they need.
Okay. And finally, one last question for Corin. Let me just get it up. So you talked about mental health in yours. How do you actually plan on supporting, how will you provide the support for mental health and stress to go further in maybe the drop-in centres, but also how will that be maintained by professional healthcare individuals?
Yeah, so at the minute we've got like the counselling services at DMU. I just want to kind of extend that into maybe making like a room, like a sensory room for people to just go and relax. Quite a few of my friends actually suffer from mental health and found that going home to their halls, it's not a nice environment sometimes, it's loud, and they just want one place to just go home and just go here and just relax. Sometimes the library can be quite a loud place as well. Just like a sensory room or a smaller room just to sit and just relax and enjoy that time. And then just kind of take the counselling service that we already have and then maybe extend it one day a week just for a drop-in centre, because I know that our counselling service is stretched and that there is a lot of a waiting list. Well, there's a big waiting list for people to go and visit these counselling services, and it is really stressful for a lot of people.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're going to move on to some student questions now. So earlier on this week, we went out into the student body and we asked them to give us some questions about what they really wanted to know from their future presidential candidates and also welfare candidates. So our first question was, will you actually follow through with what you're promising?
I'll start it off. I've only gone for attainable goals. I haven't tried to set myself massively high goals. When I was thinking about running, I went and spoke to a representative at the Students' Union and I said, I've got these ideas. I want you to tell me now if they're going to be attainable if I get elected. If not, I'm not going to run. And they told me that it was completely attainable if I run that campaign and I win, that this will be achievable. So I'm only running with attainable goals.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've basically done the same thing. It's gone and spoken to people and seen whether it could be attainable. Also to speak to like my friends and stuff and seeing what they think that could be improved on campus. I think that's the main thing, speak to students and see what they really want around this campus, and it is a students' union, so what they want is basically what I've gone for.
Yeah, no, I've pretty much done exactly the same. I've spoken to kind of ex-people who were welfare at the SU. I've spoken to my students. I've spoken to like representatives on the SU, and I've just said, like, I've got this campaign, I've got these ideas. Are they attainable? Like, basically, like Jordan said, and they've said, yeah. I mean, change this maybe or change that, but like, don't reach too far. But if you can, like, you can definitely do it. You've got the kind of the dream and the goals and the kind of I can't think of the word.
Almost the drive.
The drive, the passion and the drive to kind of do it. I mean, I've already done it with my LGBT society. I've kind of given a lot of effort into that, so I feel like I could definitely do the same with the welfare and community position.
Okay, so building further on that, obviously you said these are all attainable. All of you have said these are all attainable goals which you've set yourself. So there's nothing really to set you apart in this sort of terms. So now it's coming down to the idea of how quickly will you actually be able to instill these in the SU? Are we going to see them within a week of you arriving? Obviously that might be a bit almost happy and like joyful for me to see that, but is it going to be a month, 3 months, 9 months?
So personally, I want a more transparent SU. I want to keep the students updated, because from time to time we see updates and it's all right, but it's definitely not enough. So I would give literally week by week updates. I can be like, this is being done, this is being done, and this hasn't quite been done yet. So I can't give you an exact timescale just yet, obviously, but you would get updates regularly rather than just sort of scattered updates every now and again.
Okay.
With my campaign, I've tried to make every single thing relate to one type of like student or different student groups. So they're not going to take off all at once. They're all going to depend on different student types and what's going to happen. So hopefully I'll get them off quite quickly, but I don't see that being like an exact date.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see all of it happen at once, and it'd be great to see it from the start. And I understand that that's not ideally realistic, but some of the things that can, in my campaign, that can be realistic are like the open drop-in sessions that can be set up. Things like the healthy eating, they can be set up because you just work with other societies, and it's getting the ball rolling and then making sure that you stay consistent, you stay kind of I keep forgetting my words today. But you stay consistent, you keep going at it. You don't just be like, oh, I'm going to take a break. You keep going and you make sure you keep doing at it, and then not even eventually, it should start to form together within the first few months.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so many people would like more events for minorities such as LGBT. What will you offer? So other different kind of schemes which are not kind of the current, aren't the norm, things that were going to be out there, like Love International, it went off. Things like that.
I think that's all to do with research. Obviously, come September, we will have a third of the student body will have completely changed. So it's not something we can address now. It's something we'll need to visit again in September, because obviously all the first years coming in, we could have totally different sort of interests to tackle. So during freshers, it will just be about getting out there, contacting them, seeing what they want. It will literally just being on campus, because you've seen it out there during Freshers Week, there's so many bodies about, and so yeah, just talking to them, seeing what they want.
So you basically want to do sort of a similar tactic to what you've been doing this week, where you've been campaigning. You've literally just been stopping people. How effective has that actually been? Honestly, of the number of people you've stopped, has this actually resulted in you getting a vast majority of these people to vote, or has this just been the occasional few and then people have just full on ignored you?
No, I've been going and talking to people that have been sort of sat down. So they don't mind almost being disturbed. They've got time to talk, and I've been going up to them, and I have had huge amounts of success. I've basically pitched myself to them, and they've told me what they want back, and I've been able to answer their questions, and it has resulted in me getting votes. So I would just use that same strategy instead of getting votes. I'd be like, what would you want me to change?
Yeah, okay then.
I guess the one thing that's different from this week to Freshers Week is that Freshers, you've got so much going on. You've got people giving out freebies, you've got people trying to get you to sign up for all these things. How would you be like, okay, what do you want? Like when everyone's kind of dotted around seeing everyone else, they won't have enough time.
How are you going to make yourself stand out?
Yeah, it's basic. Well, we will have an exec team, so it won't be just a solo person. It will be there'll be a group of sort of 5, maybe 10 of us, depending if part-time roles get involved as well. So we could either have a stand, and then we have a sort of place for people to go during freshers, and they can go to there and they can talk there, and then we could have some other representatives sort of walking about, going about campus, sort of catching people as maybe they're entering or leaving campus. So yeah, it's all just about utilising the team rather than just thinking of myself as an individual.
Okay, and what about you, Corinne?
Well, I've forgotten the question because there was too many.
Many people would like more events for minorities, such as LGBT+, etc. What will you do to offer to these people, except for the stuff that's currently going on?
Yeah, well, I've spoken quite a lot to religious groups, and I found that although we do have one of the biggest religious rooms, like prayer rooms, in this university, it's absolutely brilliant if you've never been to see it. But some different groups find that it's always really busy during the day, and that maybe to have set times for different religion stuff, like the ISOC Society been there quite a lot, but the Hindu Society would actually quite like in the mornings to maybe have set prayer times for them. Oh, sorry, shit you. And things like that. And also like the Christian Society, they've also got their place and things like that. So I'd like to do quite a lot of work with the religious societies if possible.
Okay, but what about anybody else who isn't part of a religious society?
Yeah, I've worked quite a lot with the BME Society. I've spoken to quite a lot of the people there, and they've been quite interested in loads of different things. Just kind of listening to what students want in the minute, because it's quite hard to figure out what everyone's
So
doing.
almost, it's like, from what I understand here, you've listened to what people have already said.
Yeah.
So what event ideas do you actually have then?
Just like, I don't know, basically find out more about different religious societies, because I'm not very religious myself, but I'd like to listen more and understand more about different religious societies.
So you want to do
I
something
can,
similar to Jordan then?
yeah, kind of,
Yeah.
just basically understand more about religion, because within my work I'm going to have to, like, if I go into health, I'm going to have to understand a bit more about religion. And I feel like from school and stuff, I think we focus a lot on Christianity, but not about other different religions, so I'd quite like to focus more on learning about the different religions that we have here at
So
DMU.
what events are you actually going to do to be able to do this? Are you going to set up meetings?
Like taster
almost?
sessions kind of
So
thing.
you're going to do taster sessions
taster
with them?
sessions.
Okay, right,
yeah,
okay,
that would be pretty cool. Like to learn about like we've got Hollyfest this week. That would be pretty cool to do. And then we've got Diwali, like taster sessions throughout the year to understand what all these religious events are all about. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, perfect. And over to you.
So, I mean, we've already had DMU Pride, which I was a really big part of. So, I mean, one of the things I'd love to see next year, as like even more for LGBT students, would be like an LGBT leadership and leadership, like we've had with BME people in leadership, and even a disabilities people in leadership, because they're all minorities and they all want to be leaders one day, which would be really great. So that's one of my main ideas. Like Corinne said, right, religions are really big as well. Like, so kind of how religions kind of not set you back, but perhaps how they help you push forward and how we need to push them forward as well, definitely. So, but definitely like more events like Love International, more events like DME Pride, but for all the different minorities, especially disability and mature students, because mature students, they've come to university to better themselves again, and it's important that they get that support as well.
Okay. So just one sort of last question that we have is from someone who is very personal to this person. What would actually happen in the events of an anti-Semitic event? Because this is something that has been happening quite broadly across the UK, especially in student unions. They've not been able to cope with them very well. How are you going to be able to do this in comparison to all these other issues, which are obviously very established as well? So what's going to set you apart from them?
So I think this is all about education for us rather than us educating students, because it's a subject where you can't it needs a lot of sensitivity. You can't go out there preaching if you don't know about it yourself. So we would almost have to go and do our own research and get educated, because I, for one, wouldn't be able to do an event on that, because it'd be very ignorant of me to do that. So I think the exec team altogether would have to get training on that. They'd have to get sensitivity training so they could handle it with great care, because it is such a sensitive subject. And yeah, it's just all about sensitivity and care in that regard, yeah.
Would you maybe include some Jewish students in this so that you can sort of get an idea of what they want to get out of it in case, God forbid, this does actually happen?
Yeah, definitely. If they were, like, obviously, it's very sensitive, so I'd make sure they were first willing, because just, like, obviously, they're a part of that faith, but just sort of assuming that they'd be willing to get involved would again, be ignorant. So
Yeah.
it's just all about willingness on that part. So yeah, if they were willing to, then yeah, that would be fantastic to get them students involved.
What about you, Corinne?
I think pretty similar. Like, I'm not very trained in this kind of situation. I'd have to fall back on my team and every single staff at DMU. Like, the lecturers have been really good with everything that happens in lectures. So maybe like training more for lecturers and things like that as well. And all staff, security staff, the library staff, just I think it needs a lot of training and a lot of sensitivity. Like, I don't really want to repeat what you're saying, but I completely agree with what you're saying.
Okay. Nikki, finally then?
Yeah, without repeating pretty much exactly
Yeah.
what they said, I completely agree. Educating like ourselves as a team, educating lecturers, educating the students as well is really important. So, I mean, I don't have any kind of personal experience, and I don't think that I can be like, oh no, this is my point of view, because I don't have one yet. But
Okay.
educating myself before I can really make that point of view. But there would always be support for the Jewish students, as there is every student. So making sure that they feel that comfortable to come talk to us as well, and make sure they feel comfortable in their students' union would be really important.
Okay.
So, last one. Tutors don't provide welfare for students who are on arts courses. I know this firsthand. I do drama. I'm here all the time late doing rehearsals. What would you do to kind of support those students? I guess different art courses, dance courses, everything like that.
So yeah, I am also know this firsthand. I am a dance student, so basically to tackle this, I would make sure that I would implement basically a course representative, so a student that would be trained in welfare for each year, and then their contact numbers, they would basically have a contact number. So if there was a welfare issue on campus, they would then be able to be contacted and then go and sort the issue out. So basically, obviously, tutors might not be able to be contacted late at night. If a student lives on campus and they've been trained and they are willing to take the role at the beginning of the year, just like a course rep, they put themselves forward for the role, then yeah, that's basically what I'd implement to tackle that.
So would you do one-to-one training with those?
So yeah, basically
students?
you'd have one for each year, because not all years know each other. Like I know some of the dance second years, but I don't know a lot of the dance first years. So there'd be one representative from each year, and they would all receive welfare training, and then that would be your sort of representative, and that's who you would go to for a welfare issue.
Okay, and quickly on to Corinne, yeah?
Yeah, so with my mental health and the escape place, I was thinking, well, I'll try to get them to stay like an extra evening, so maybe open it up for an evening. If they could just drop in centre, just quickly pop in, and just because quickly, my second thing is for my international perspective programme to have a phone number for all students, not just international students, to ring in. So if they're on the way home and they want someone to ring up to, like if they're walking through areas that they're not too comfortable with, or even if it's just a problem at home that the fire alarm's going off, they need some help, or any kind of welfare issue, they can just ring it up and then they can direct them to different
Wonderful.
services.
And finally, quickly on to you. We're running out of time.
So I'd like try and encourage the lecturers to kind of obviously be there. I mean, obviously we can't say, oh no, you have to stay late, because you can't be paid for that, but at least kind of encourage them to kind of be contacted in some sort of way over Facebook, over email. But also, yeah, like Corinne said, like a call line, like promoting things like Nightline, which we've already got, would be really important. And like making sure that students are aware that they can come to us any time that they would need to. But yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, all of you. I believe you all did very well.
It was great.
And I wish you all the best of luck in the coming campaign week, and also for Friday as well. So we'll be back after a short break with the presidential candidate, so do stay tuned to us.
Hi everyone, I'm Louise and I'm running for VP Welfare and Community. I'm going to talk about my manifesto. Sorry I can't be there tonight, I have got home duties. So basically the first point of my manifesto is my One DMU campaign, which is celebrating all of our minority groups that are here at the university, which actually make up more than 48% of our student population. It was inspired by the Love International event, in which students said how much they loved being part of DMU, and it felt like a second home. And I want to celebrate that and promote awareness and build barriers, because there are still barriers there. Okay, my second point is that I want to create and collaborate with all students and make a fully inclusive recipe book that's budget based, because students are always broke. And I want to make it so that there's a recipe with lots of different adaptations, so that somebody with a different type of dietary requirement, for whatever reason, we can adapt that recipe. And my third point is a healthy mind, and I want to promote stress busting techniques, relaxation sessions, and mental health awareness workshops. All of which, I think all of my points are really achievable because I've got links from being a disability rep for the last 2 years. I know where to look at the source of things, and if anyone has any questions, then please do come and find me on campus and ask me. Thanks very much.
Hi everyone, and hello Demon TV. I'm Joseph Glover, a candidate for the presidency. Unfortunately, I cannot be there because I've got to work. However, I just wanted to apologise for not being there, but also say to check out my manifesto online and also follow the hashtag Gojo DSU campaign. So that's all from me, and best of luck to all the candidates tonight, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
So you've just heard 2 apology videos there. They couldn't come tonight, unfortunately, due to prior commitments. But we have now moved on to the presidential debate, and we have brought Dan Winnie, our current president, back. And we're doing a bit different with this one because we think this one is especially important. These candidates haven't seen the student questions. This is going to be an entirely blind debate. So over to Dan and Floss.
So Dan, you've been the president for a year. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it is the best job in the world. And these candidates, if you want it, go and get it, because you get to do everything. You get to meet so many different people. You get to lead the union, which is massive, and something which I never got to experience before that. So it really is such a great job.
So give us a little bit of a rundown of that job description.
Yeah.
What the titles do.
So the president, you're the figurehead of the union. So you lead the union both in the strategic direction. So you set what this union should do for that year. But a lot of your time will be spent on kind of what's going on, like real world problems, and one of them for me was Brexit was a big one. So I was on the battle bus the day before the Remain. I know it didn't go our way and what the union wanted it to be, but you get to go to so many different places. Networking is really important. You're responsible for the relationship between the university and the union, which can be really hard at times. To keep kind of the union happy, students happy, and the university happy. It's actually probably the hardest thing to do because everyone wants different things. You get to attend different events. You get to make loads of speeches. Freshers Week is probably my favourite time of year. You get to talk to so many new students, try and get them involved in the union. Yeah, so there's a lot to it.
Is there anything that you can pinpoint that you were so happy with that you achieved this year?
Yeah, so something for me which was massive was, it was also a challenge as well, was the new building and the new DSU revamp. And part of that was 6 months where we had to spend it over in the Art Factory, which was not the best building in the world to have, especially through freshers, as I'm sure you can agree with. So it's quite hard to get students to know what the union was, especially first years who've never been here. So that meant that as an exec team, we had to get out there and go to students more than come in. I think it worked. We broke loads of records this year in terms of engagement. But I've really enjoyed coming back into our new building. It's not finished yet. There's still phase 2 to go, where we're going to have a multi-purpose space. But for the last 24 months, to be honest, when in my role last year as well, it's just been spent a lot of time on this building and making sure it's fit for purpose and great for students.
Okay, thank you very much. That was Dan Winnie, the current president here at the DSU. And now it's time to start the full debate with these presidential candidates. We have got 4 of them here. 2 of them, unfortunately, didn't come tonight. But we will be starting with Lauren and moving to, Gary, Amelia, and Dave. Wonderful. So, Floss, first question.
To Lauren.
Yes.
So you've mentioned in your manifesto something about Worthwhile Wednesdays.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more about that.
Okay, so Worthwhile Wednesdays is an initiative that I'd really like to bring in, which would free all students from timetable, allowing them to seek out part-time work, volunteering hours, join a sports team or society, or work on their coursework. I think this would be a really important initiative. I've heard a lot from, say, nursing students and midwifery students that they feel they can't get involved with extracurricular activities because they're so busy with their timetable. And it would also benefit our sports teams. The players would then be able to go off and play for bucks, and our bucks points would go up. I think it would be a really great initiative for the university. And it's also a current NUS national policy that students should have Wednesday afternoons off. it's something that DMU have been trying to implement for quite some time, and I'd really like to really push to get that passed.
So do you think it will be worthwhile for students who have a very full timetable as it is to remove a 5-hour block from their course time?
Well, I think there is definitely issues with timetabling. I've spoken to a lot of students who say they have full classes on a certain day and then others when they just have 1 hour. And I think timetabling really needs to be reviewed as a whole to make the most for students' timetable. Busy students will have time off where they can be in the library, and it's just finding out where those hours fit in and making sure that they fit in the most beneficial places for our students. For example, I'm a dancer and we have Tuesdays off completely because that's when we do our audition days for new applicants. It would be really simple to just move that onto the Wednesday and have the Wednesdays on the Tuesdays, and I feel like with all courses there is definitely room for adjustment. And it's just sitting down and having these conversations with the lecturers and finding out the courses which are still struggling to abide by this policy, and just trying to see where adjustments could be made. I think it's definitely going to be tricky. Timetabling isn't an easy issue to be solved, but I think that's why it's important that we do look at it and it is addressed, because students need to make the most out of their time here. We pay a lot of money to be here, and you need to get the most out of your experience. It's not fair for certain students to not be able to make friends on sports teams or societies or find part-time work. It's expensive to be a student. You need to be able to support yourself, and I feel like having Wednesday afternoons off for everyone would be really beneficial, to be honest.
Thank you very much. So on to you, Gary. Just last night, the government was given the green lights to begin Brexit talks without actually having to consult Parliament.
Yeah, I did read the news about that.
And also without having to secure the fate of EU nationals living in the UK and studying here. So for a lot of international students, this is going to be really worrying. So how are you going to respond to this with your policies?
Well, the first response that I would think, if I am elected, as soon as I get into office, I am going to pretty much start a huge campaign to proposition Parliament to actually reverse the changes that it's made, because amendments were made to secure the rights of all the EU nationals that were here, but Commons have kind of overturned it. So when the votes are going to come through, people are going to go to the capital, get there in full force, and I think DMU and the DSU should be at the forefront of that big move.
Okay. So basically you're saying there should be a movement, and you're going to almost try and push this as part of your policies that you're going to introduce.
Yes.
But even if you have the backing of the university and even the universities in the UK, you're going up against the government of a first world country that is incredibly established. Why would the government give international students special treatment just because you want it? How are you going to compete with them?
Well, I think that people kind of underestimate the power of the student voice. I mean, I read an article not long ago that said, I believe it was about 2.5 billion pounds of the economy came from international students, and some of that was attributed to EU students, not just on campus but off campus spending. So if the government wouldn't guarantee the rights of these EU nationals to come and study here, they would be losing out on so much. I mean, it's a massive gamble, the move that they're taking anyway, but to actually just say goodbye to that much of the economy is just absolutely I don't know what's actually going through their minds right now. So it's not just the pressure that they feel from the student body all across the country, I believe, but just the impact of economic experts as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Emilia, you made a really broad statement of the movement for racial and gender equality across campus. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, I understand. My manifesto isn't as long as everyone else's. And basically, what I mean by racial and gender inequality and equality is I've noticed being on campus, I'm international as well as British. I'm half Cypriot. And so I've always felt sort of a link with international students and international experience in terms of race as well and in terms of gender. And on my course, doing youth work and community development, we learn about it a lot, and we're really pushed to empower students to fight against it. So when I talk about fighting for racial and gender equality, really I'm talking to my students, I'm talking to my peers, I'm talking to the student body and saying, look, this happens, you know it happens, and we need to make more of a stance against it. So when I say that, it's not just I want to fight against it. I want everyone behind me doing it. I want to lead them in a campaign. I want to empower students to make a stance against oppression, whether that be sexism, racism, homophobia, Islamophobia. Everybody is equal. And I think even as a student body, sometimes we lose sight of that. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact that actually we have a voice. Actually, we can go to the government and we can petition and we can campaign and we can walk out and we can make a stance against every kind of oppression that happens on campus and off campus. So basically, part of my campaign would be trying to get students to be aware of that, increasing that awareness, getting them out there, getting them sharing their voice.
Okay, so you've basically talked about these types of oppression, and you mentioned racism there. Whilst I've been here at DMU, although it's been quite a short time compared to probably your experience, I have not noticed a singular moment of another student being racist towards another, except until these elections started. We've had Martin's posters being ripped down.
Yeah,
yes, he lives in the UK at the minute. He is originally from Latvia. Is this something that you are targeting yourself? You're targeting trying to remove this type of thing in the university? Because obviously this is not on, especially during election season. Why do you think this has suddenly just started?
Well, I think it might have just suddenly started because all of a sudden they're seeing faces that are going to come up and represent our university. And sometimes people see those faces and they see the country behind it and they're not happy. But if we're here as a student body and if we're accepting students from other countries, which I fully believe we should, why can't we let them stand and actually work for us, work with us? Why can't they be part of our voice? And I think we should know, as the UK, we're not actually all white. We're not actually all British. We are immigrants. It wasn't originally white people living here first. We've had people all over the world that have come to this country and they've really built up our economy. They've built up our status. They've helped improve. And so they're probably seeing it now, and it's like Brexit, post-Brexit, there's been a wave of xenophobia, there's been a wave of sexism and racism because of the people that are standing there. They don't actually stand for equality and diversity. This university stands for that. Or actually, some don't and some do. And I believe that the people that do need to be up there, and those are some of the people that are running for these posts in this election.
So moving on to you, Dave.
Hello.
You have mentioned frontrunners here at the university. You said you want to try and enhance the frontrunner scheme, but the university itself is trying to promote students to take placements rather than become frontrunners. So this has led to the reduction of the positions that are going to be available, and frontrunner position to apply to be one have recently opened. So you say you want to enhance them, but what is there to enhance? What are you aiming to enhance if they're already reducing it?
I guess in a way, maybe enhance was the wrong word to use. Maybe I could have said to counteract what the university's doing at the moment. Because personally, I've been a frontrunner this year in events, and it's been a brilliant experience for me. I'm an arts and festivals management student. Working in events is potentially the field that I want to go into one day, and it's given me a brilliant hands-on experience of the kind of jobs that I would want to go into. And I think it's fantastic for a university to offer placements that are paid so students can do them besides their studies. Because personally, I knew that going into third year, first and second year I've just about managed on some savings that I had from before uni, but I knew I needed a job this year, and I knew that it needed to be part-time to go besides my studies. So a 10-hour-a-week job suited me really well. And to be in a field that I can gain experience from, be in an environment that I know like DMU, rather than just going out and doing a placement for free or going out and doing bar work at night, it's been an amazing experience. So yeah, maybe I should have used some terminology such as, reduce the cuts that are going on at the moment with them.
So that's what you'd like to do?
Yeah.
To reduce the cuts to them. So then, because obviously at the minute it's reduced the number of frontrunners that each, and it's given them to courses instead.
Yeah.
But a lot of people feel that some courses don't necessarily need them. So will you maybe introduce policies that could move these frontrunners around between courses that aren't using them? Or are you wanting them to be completely fair, straight to the point, this course gets a frontrunner, you decide who it is?
I think maybe if there was a year where the current scheme was used and they review it and they see how useful a frontrunner was, because my actual course leader, he had a frontrunner a couple of years ago, and he said that he stopped taking applications for it again because he didn't really find it useful, which I found really interesting to know, because I asked him, why do students on arts and festivals management not know about the frontrunner scheme? Because it's given me really amazing experience. I had no idea about it until halfway through second year. And he simply said, because I didn't like didn't like his frontrunner. He probably didn't, by the sounds of what he said. But he said that it wasn't really beneficial for him to have a frontrunner. So I kind of get the feeling that some courses don't need it as much, because in a way he made it out as if that person became like his PA, and maybe that's not as useful for frontrunners, whereas the frontrunner that I'm doing is kind of part of a team who kind of need it. You know, there's 8-9 person team, and there's lots of other ones around the university. I mean, someone was talking to me today on campus. They mentioned that a frontrunner helped a doctor get his PhD in health and life sciences because I think they had discovered something new, and that frontrunner helped them to do that. So that's the kind of example of where a frontrunner would be useful for a lecturer.
Okay, so thank you all for answering those first questions. Back to you quickly, Dan. Having listened to what these candidates have actually said, do you think that you're actually going to hand this issue over to someone who is going to be incapable? Is it going to be in capable hands?
Yeah, I think all the candidates made really good points and want to make really good change. And I've obviously done a load of research with students, and it's actually come from students' problems rather than just themselves. And I think that's a danger sometimes. You know what you want and what you would do as yourself to change the union and the university, but actually you need to go to that wider community, and that's especially important for DMU because we're so diverse and we celebrate that. So it's so important to go out there, talk to students, and find out what they want, and then act on it.
Wonderful. Well, we'll go back to the debates.
So Lauren, you say, so back to timetabling.
Okay.
You say you want a timetable that is free from clashes and one that won't change last minute.
Yeah.
So we spoke to a lot of people as part of our research, and we hadn't found anyone who had experienced clashes in their timetable.
Did you speak to any nurses?
No, we didn't speak to nurses, unfortunately.
Nurses are the main people I'm targeting with this. They work so hard, and their timetable literally can change the week before. I've spoken to many nurses who are carers, who have families, and their timetable literally changes so last minute that they have to drop their whole lives and rearrange their childcare and their support just to fit in their education. And that was the main reason I included that in my policy, because education should be inclusive and not exclusive, and especially for commuting students as well. If you're coming for an hour plus journey just to come in for one lecture, and then that changes the night before or the week before, you have so much planning for your week ahead, and it shouldn't be that way. I know this might not be a problem for all students, but it is a big problem for some students, and I think that's what I want to look at mostly, is making people aware that although a problem doesn't affect you, it can be a massive issue for others. And yeah, I think our nurses do get overlooked quite a lot. They have really, really difficult degrees, really hard, long placements. They work a lot, and they don't have time to join in a lot of the extracurricular activities. And that was mainly a policy for the nursing and midwifery students, because their timetable and their placements are a massive issue for them.
So specifically talking there, you mentioned a lot about nursing and midwifery.
Yeah.
Surely there's no way for you to be able to set in stone that there will be no timetable changes.
Well,
because if they are placements,
Yeah.
surely it's not just the university who is giving these placements. These are external companies. It's the NHS.
Yeah.
The NHS can only provide people as and when they can get someone to train them.
Of course. But I don't think that should stop us from trying. There are elements of their course that we can control, the stuff that they do on campus, which also does change last minute. And even the things that are out of our power, we should be trying to do the most that we can to ensure that our students have the best experience that they possibly can do, and a timetable that they can rely on. So even it would be very difficult, and I'm not promising that I can do it in a term, even in a year. I just want to make some form of change that might help them, and that would be very difficult. That would be negotiating with their placements and their hospitals. Yeah, I'm not saying it would be easy at all, but I definitely think it's something that needs to be looked at.
Okay,
yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Gary, you've mentioned about printing. In fact, quite a few of the candidates have talked about printing,
Yes.
not just in presidential. But you said that you're going to work to make all essential coursework reduced based upon importance.
Yes.
So how are you going to rate this by importance?
Well, it just depends on how far along it would be into the grading of their individual modules that printing needs to take place. like because there are certain types of printing where it's just like kind of like proof work. It's like early on in the course where it's not like essential toward their marks, but there are key pieces of work, coursework, and module hand-ins that just need to be done, and it's usually at a time of the year where people have gone right through their wages, their student loans, and they are broke.
Okay.
And it's a lot, and us with some people it is a lot of printing. I mean, I am lucky being a fine arts student that I don't need to print dissertations, and all my work is kind of like handed in through a blog online. But like a lot of people are just like really, really struggling when it comes to actually like printing these really important pieces of work for their project. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Emilia, you talk about modern day slavery, but we personally weren't aware that there are any cases of DMU, DSU or DSU that students are being involved in slavery. Could you enlighten us on this topic?
So when I speak about modern day slavery, I'm not actually targeting DMU as a culprit for that, even though there could be some students that could be benefiting from it. It's about profit. It's about the exploitation of people. And I mean, if we're talking about exploitation in a metaphorical sense, everybody is actually exploited for some sense. For their position or in their student experience, they could be exploited for work. They could be exploited for anything. And so when I talk about that, I'm not necessarily saying that it's on campus and it's an issue that I need to address. I'm saying it's an issue in society that I know a lot of people on my course and people I've spoken to on other courses and in other faculties, they're extremely passionate about. They're very interested in trying to get students out there and getting people out there to make a change about this, because it's one of the most profiting businesses out there, people, exploiting people. And I think if students come together and if we petition, if we get campaigns out there to work with people, work with organizations that could actually tackle this, we could be such a fantastic university. As a students' union, we'd actually be undertaking our political responsibility to actually fight for people, fight for their rights, and fight for their voice, because these people don't have a voice.
Okay,
Yeah.
so building on that further, if we talk about this, could you maybe say that your manifesto is based more on your personal opinions and trying to get people who are like-minded to vote for you, rather than policy-based? Because the 3 points that you gave were statements of what you personally believe in. So what is it, if we take the person out of the equation, what is actually making your manifesto stand out compared to Lauren's, Gary's and Dave's?
In terms of that, I think you're right. My manifesto doesn't have the policy that it should. It hasn't got the word count. But in terms of my leaflets and in terms of my posters and my conversation with students, I do have that there. I guess I was a little bit behind in that.
So could you maybe enlighten us as to what you actually want to achieve with the presidential role?
Yeah, so I would like to definitely involve DMU Global and Love International to create more campaigns for diversity and equality on campus. Mostly getting students involved in campaigns and protests and demonstrations, maybe in London, Manchester, nationally and internationally, on issues like modern day slavery, human trafficking, racism, homophobia, which is actually quite close to some people here on campus as well. They've had experience with it. So I'm encouraging and I'm increasing awareness for students of these issues. I want to empower them to stand against it. So if I'm taking the person out of that, basically my campaign is to increase awareness of these things. I want to campaign to abolish loans and give grants instead. I want to reinstate disability support, because that was a huge blow to our university last year. I want to get cheaper accommodation on campus. Just daily cost of living can be like really hard sometimes, especially for international students. They have to pay significantly more than an EU or a national student. I think that's unfair. I think there needs to be equality on all bases, on all things. And so that's my campaign, that's my manifesto, but it's just not as clear. You're right, it wasn't as clear. But in terms of talking to students, I come across very straightforward, clear, hardworking and genuine.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
David, you mentioned students dropping out, that they should receive support, but why?
Well, I just think it's important that DMU doesn't just leave a student if they want to leave. Like, obviously I know technically this is the student's choice to leave, but I feel like the DSU and DMU has a duty of care over their students. They shouldn't just be able to leave their course so easily and then not be helped into a workplace, into another course here, into another university. Because right now, I think the only reason why it became such a big part of my manifesto is I mean, it always played on my mind anyway, because personally, I've not always enjoyed my university life, like mainly my course. So I've thought about leaving before, like I think a lot of people have. And halfway through third year this year, a very close friend of mine actually dropped out of my course. And it's like such a shame. She worked so hard for 2.5 years and then still felt the need to drop out. And when she dropped out, obviously, I do get it. There's only so much the university can do. But she literally signed a form and our course leader said, oh, you can come back next year if you want. But where's the support to help her get into a workplace and use the parts of her degree she has got? Or where's the support to maybe help her look at a different course at DMU or a different university if she was interested in that?
Well, building on that, why would the university do that? Because as soon as you leave that course, you're stopping paying, which means that somebody has got to pay for this sort of counselling that you want to do. And it's not even a student anymore, really, that you're trying to counsel. So why? Just why, in general? Where are you going to get this money from?
I just think in general, as I said again, it's just so a student isn't just like dropped and left. I get the fact that obviously they're not going to be paying any more money. That's something that I'd have to look into if I did become president and did want to implement this, because obviously the money's not going to come from nowhere. The student has stopped paying their money. But the way I see it, I just feel like a university should have more of a duty of care on the students that do leave, because they did make the choice to come here. And whether they were here for a month, 2 years, or, you know, dropped out halfway through third year, I just kind of feel like there needs to be that support there. Obviously, I don't know how it'd be funded yet. If I got in, that's what I'd have to look at. It might even end up that it's not feasible. You know, I just don't know. But it's something that I would like to do. Whether it was just offering them career support somewhere else or just telling them where they can go that's not necessarily DMU based, that's the kind of support that maybe it should be there. Because obviously I can't just sit here and go, I'll be able to fund it, because I don't know that. So maybe if it could even just be that we suggest where they go next, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you said it might not be feasible then. So then why did you include it in your manifesto?
Because it's something I feel passionate about, I guess. Obviously,
so
if it
again,
is feasible.
It's sort of linking back to the emotional side of it, as we want an emotional president who's there for the students rather than for themselves.
Yeah,
is that what
absolutely.
you're trying to sort of say?
Yeah, I think that's in my manifesto as well. Like, I wouldn't want to be a president who just runs because I want to be president. I want to be there for all of the students. I want to feel like if they've got a problem, they can just walk into the office, talk to me, talk to any of the other officers about anything they've got a problem with.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. So, as we said before, we are going on to the presidential candidate questions. We went out into the student body and collected them from them out there. We were outside Food Village on Monday. It was a very breezy day for me and I was not impressed. But all these guys were also out there campaigning towards this. So these questions are very specific in that they haven't seen them, unlike the other roles. The reason why we're doing this is so that we can sort of gauge which ones will actually be good in it at an almost blind debate. So, first question, and it is open to everyone, so whoever wants to answer first, go for it. Car parking facilities for students. What's going to happen about them? Whoever?
I think there needs to be more of an importance put on not using cars, to be honest. I think commuters should be free to use the car park as freely as they'd like. But I know a lot of students who live on Narborough Road and drive in. It's not good for the environment, and it's taking up spaces from students who travel for 3 hours. We now have some great bike facilities. There's locks, what are they called? The little metal. There's places to lock your bike up outside most buildings now. And I think there needs to be more of an importance on using public transport and cutting DMU's carbon footprint and making sure that there are spaces for people who do need to use the car park, because I do feel it is used quite unnecessarily in some cases with students who live locally, and that's what I have to say.
But you've almost basically turned that on its head and not really answered what you were actually going to do with the car parking. So if we say that more students actually start commuting in via cars,
well,
we've also got staff as well. So
yeah,
where are these car parking spaces going to be? Because obviously our campus has just been revamped. We can't shove a load of cars there because it's going to ruin it. We spent millions on this place. Are you going to implement a multi-storey?
Well, what I was saying previously is currently I don't think car parking is as big of an issue as it may seem. I think it is being used unnecessarily, and I think if people who didn't necessarily have to use their cars to get into university didn't, and used other means such as buses or bikes or walked, there would be the spaces available for commuters and staff.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that? Yeah?
I do agree with Lauren actually, because I do feel like we're in the middle of the city. We're already a bit of a cramped city anyways. To try and build more facilities for car park, it's kind of taking away from the fact that there are a lot more issues relating to our students, and a lot of them do live here, roundabouts. Like I live near Narber Road, I walk in, I use the bus. It's very definitely expensive. It's not saving me money, but essentially I can't get a car and bring it in, because I know that there's definitely the thousands of staff here as well. The car park, I know a member of staff in my degree, he comes in at 10 past 8 in the morning, and he only has to be here actually at 10. But he comes in that time because he can't get anywhere in the car park. And I understand, I've got students on my course as well, they have to use car park spaces because they commute as well. But they do manage. It is a manageable thing. It's definitely not urgent, but I do get what you're saying, but we can't actually make a multi-storey car park. We have to make sure all of our staff and students just first come, first serve,
So
really.
if we sort of say, what would you could possibly suggest? Because obviously we've had the idea of walking, but are there any other ideas you could suggest for this then?
Well, obviously using your bike again as well, so basically getting fit at the same time. But if we're not talking about fitness, I guess finding other car parks across the city as well. So
But they're going to cost money.
Yeah.
And students don't have that finance already.
Yes, I know, but I mean, this is the kind of thing where you probably don't have an option. You have to spend money on your parking because it's not free. Unless we campaign and petition the government to make some more free parking, I guess we could do that. But I don't really know. It'd have to be something that you'd have to have meetings about. You'd have to really discuss. You'd have to really think about the budget in terms of that. Is it urgent? Is it not?
Okay.
But
Anybody else have anything to add?
Well, in my manifesto, I do kind of, I already mentioned something that might like kind of work towards this. I would try to actually like make deals with like the bus companies of Leicester to try to get like student bus tickets and student fares to become like an actual reality. So this will like incentivize people to kind of like not like spend all of their student loans on like trying to fund fuel and insure a car, rather just like kind of take the public transport, because at the moment people are kind of dissuaded from it because of the kind of accumulating costs of like getting day tickets or like kind of like travel passes like every single week or every single month. So an actual student like kind of bus pass would like kind of work wonders towards this. And it would really, like as Lauren said, like reduce the carbon footprint by like reducing the amount of cars that are being used by students.
Okay, so talking about those bus fares then, obviously most buses are run by private corporations. So you're talking about doing this with the council. Are the council going to reimburse these bus companies for this loss in profit in that sense, or is the university going to do it?
Well, I think it would just be like a matter of like negotiations with these bus companies.
What's in there? What is it that bus company is going to hear you say for them to be, oh yes, we'll reduce these by half? What's stopping them from just saying no?
What's stopping them is the fact that they can either gain more business by giving away slightly cheaper tickets to students, or they can lose all this business by completely like losing out on all of these students whose like business would either be taken elsewhere or they would just find other means of transport. So the way I've kind of like seen businesses throughout my entire life is they'd rather make a little bit of money where they can rather than lose a lot of money by just trying to like grab as much as they can in one go.
Okay. And did you have anything to add, or?
Yeah. The only thing I would add, obviously, I'm not saying it'd be easy. The SU and the uni would have to try and negotiate these, but there is really big car parks around at the stadium and at the High Cross, which obviously are less busy during the weekdays. Might not be like a viable solution. It might prove too expensive, but I know that the uni has a deal with the football club for like open days and interview days where they rent out a certain amount of space of Leicester's stadium car parking space for them days. Obviously, when it's match day, they can't do that. But I don't know whether they could look into doing that, and then the uni could charge the students a bit. I don't know how it would work, but I guess it's something to look into because there is car parking spaces that are quite close to campus that are available.
Okay. Fine.
So next question. I know at the beginning of term, well this year, the food village was probably the only place to really get hot food at quite extortionate prices, especially for students. Obviously now we've got a lot more kind of options, but would you ever be kind of speaking to the food village about different prices, maybe healthier eating?
Yeah, I think that's a definite point. I've looked at the prices now and I've actually bought from the food village. So we're definitely cheaper, and I've had students come up to me saying that this is a lot cheaper now. But in terms of options, we do have like halal, and I think that's great because we have a high Muslim population here at DMU. Vegan and vegetarian, which is one of the things actually on Gary's manifesto. It's definitely, I was a vegan for some time, and when I was looking for vegan options, I went to the cafe at Riverside, and the prices were extortionate. I was paid £2.50 for about 8 olives. So I think that's a little bit of a joke, to be honest. So definitely with the food village, we need to make sure that all student needs and dietary requirements are definitely catered for, and make sure that we actually get the students to decide that. They're the ones eating it, and the staff as well, actually. They're the ones that are going to be eating it. It's not the university's decision for that. But yeah, I definitely think there should be cheaper prices on campus, because Lauren can go now.
I've actually done quite a lot of work this year with trying to advocate for cheaper prices in the food village, and especially in the first term when it was the only place to go. I have heavy involvement with the Vegan and Vegetarian Society, and I've done a hell of a lot of work with trying to get more options in. And I've worked closely with Chartwells with developing Riverside, and with Dan and the SU team with the menu here. And it is difficult. They are an external company, and it is difficult negotiating prices. But I think a lot of progress has been made this year, especially since the SU is now open. And we have a great menu here, and I think the next steps would be to improve facilities here and bring in more furniture so that we can cater to more students, because there are so many vegan options and vegetarian options here for everyone, and the money goes straight back into DSU, which is fantastic. So any money that you get spent here goes straight back into your student services. Obviously with Chartwells, it's a negotiation with an external company, and you've just got to sit down and talk to them about the prices and see what the best deals there are that they can do. And I have experience with working with them, with setting up Riverside, and obviously in the first term when there was very little else you could eat. But that's my views.
Okay, and do either of you have anything to add, or do you want to move on to the next question?
Well, it would just be kind of like pretty much like going off what Lauren just said. That like it does need like a lot more work, like the food village, when it comes to like catering for like people's dietary needs. Like there are like yesterday, like I spoke to someone who was like like kind of running the food village and the Riverside Cafe. Like I just happened to like pass her one of my flyers talking about bringing more vegan and vegetarian options into the food village, and she seemed like quite dismissive, where it was like, oh yeah, like they can just go to the Riverside Cafe, and that kind of made me like, yeah, but that's like not like the whole point. The point is like to have a centralized, like campus-wide, like all over the place, not just one small cafe, but like somewhere where everybody can go and like feel confident in their choices. And yeah, again, like Lauren said, it would be a matter of just like kind of sitting down and negotiating, and like that would be something that like I would like really like heavily focus my time on, like when it comes to that, because it makes.
Can I just stop you there? Sorry, we've got to move on to the next question real quick. We're running out of time, unfortunately. So we've talked about all these aims that you've got in your manifestos that you'd like to bring in, and obviously we've heard your opinions now of what you would like to do as well. So how are you going to ensure that your manifesto aims are met? Do you have any particular priorities with them? Starting with whoever. I'm not first.
Well, when it comes to my manifesto aims, it would be pretty much as I've said. First and foremost would be the international safe haven kind of idea, where I would like spend a lot of time like trying to campaign, trying to mobilize DSU, De Montfort itself, and if possible, try to bring other universities like into the fray to try to like really really drive the point home to Parliament that we the students of De Montfort and all over the country aren't happy about the decisions that they're making. Secondly, would be trying to bring more vegan and vegetarian options into the food village, and that's something that I will spend a lot of time on. Dissertation printings would be third, and then fourth would be trying to get those student bus fares, which I think would be
almost the most difficult one to achieve. Is that sort of, it's going to be the most difficult one to achieve, so you're sort of going to maybe put that on the back burner for a bit?
Well, not necessarily. It's just the fact that I believe that making sure that people eat right and making sure that students still have the right to come here and reducing the stress of dissertation printing kind of takes precedence over that one issue.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to say? Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of the manifesto and the policies that we all have, it's really hard to say what we're going to do first, because I think a lot of them, I hope I'm speaking for everyone, but I think a lot of them we're going to be doing at the same time. We're going to be working with other people, working with students, external organisations, to get a lot of them done, rather than just be okay, so today I'm going to do this, and then next month I'm going to do this. So for me, I feel like I have to take a multi-perspective approach to it. I have to keep my eyes on everything. I mean, if we're talking about equality and diversity, we have to make sure everything is happening at the same time. And as president, we would be the figurehead of what we're trying to campaign for, what we're trying to get out there. The empowerment of students is our responsibility. Yeah. And so for me, the thing that, there's little things, I want to install a qwuestion, which is a search engine that plants trees. So I want to do that, and that wouldn't take long at all. That would be within a week or something. And then there are other things like campaigning to abolish tuition fees, or at least give equal rights for EU and international students to education, or the reduction of tuition fees. I want to do that as a long-standing thing, and I understand that's probably going to be one of the biggest fights of my entire life. It's not going to be, I'm just going to be president and I'll get it done at the end of the year. It's going to be something that I just want to create now, and then continue and continue and continue until there's some change. But yeah.
Anybody else? You'd like to chirp in?
I think maybe a way to say that I'd stick to a manifesto is really simple. Just stick a copy of it on the wall, and then just go off it like that. Literally, just so I know every day what I'm working towards, what I want to stick to, what I wanted to do before I got the role, if I was to get it. So every day I know that that's what I want to kind of aim for. I guess some of them, as has been touched on by the other two, would be a lot easier to do than others. Like you brought up earlier, the one about students who drop out, that would be quite hard to achieve, but I definitely still work towards ones like that. I think expanding the Love International campaign would be one of the first ones, because it is slightly easier to do. Another one would be looking to set up initiatives for people who have more hidden mental illnesses, such as anxiety, depression, that kind of thing. Again, that'd be one that I'd definitely look to do straight away. But yeah, I think that's all I've got to say, really.
And Lauren, finally?
Thank you. I think with my manifesto, there's definitely, I tried to make a mix of simple solutions, things that I think would be quicker to fix than others, and others that maybe I might not achieve in my time, but at least it will have paved the way for some positive change for the next person to maybe go a bit further, and maybe the next person after that might achieve what I was trying to. I think in terms of making hand-ins online only, I think that's a really quick and easy fix, because you do it through Turnitin already, and I think that would just be a case of having the right conversations with the right people, and also fighting oppression on campus. DSU do some fantastic campaigns that champion underrepresented students, like Black History Month, DMU Pride, and Women in Leadership. And it would just be a case of bringing in an element of tackling everyday racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia,